welcome everybody. And I want to start with a few questions. One is, how many of you agree that the game has changed in sales, leadership, or even personal growth? I mean, would you agree? Yeah, I think so. How many of you agree that that people are more overwhelmed and confused and just struggling to keep up?
Agree.
Yeah, agree. I don't think anybody's gonna. Yeah, I'm getting you all to say yes. And how many of you? Now here's the clicker. How many of you believe that some things never change?
Yes.
You're absolutely right. And a lot of people get that wrong. We're going to talk about that later. So here's a quick teaser. One of the people that I got certified by is T. Falcon Napier. And I think the guy is absolutely brilliant. And he always says, people don't resist change. And everybody, don't you see this all the time? People resist change. How many times do you hear this, right? No. Is that really true? Think about it.
Yep.
How many people have been married? Okay, that was a change. You were slowly married. How many people are divorced? I got more than one behind my belt. I'm a slow learner or a fast forgetter. And how many of you have a different job? How many of you have moved? How many of you have been remarried and re-divorced? Okay, so we do change, especially when there's something in it for us. You can teach an old dog a new trick, but the dog has got to like the trick. And that's what we'll be talking about a little bit later. So let me just, there's no way I can do justice to all the 12 brain hacks. We got to have a little bit of suspense. But what I want to do is give you some of the foundational stuff behind influence and having an impact. So first of all, it's the power of delivery. It's not just what you say, but how you say it. And, more now than ever, I was speaking up in California at an LA conference on longevity. And you know what? I'm the icon of longevity because I'm always the oldest one on the stage. And so I'm kind of living proof that even in your 80s, you can be going strong. I still snow ski. Didn't go this year. I better keep up with it. And waters, whatever. There's no need to give all of that up. And so the bottom line is that now more than ever, delivery is more important. And when I was at that conference, I was with, I think, 80 other speakers. They were scientists. They were so blessed boring. I cannot tell you. They had incredible messages, but my brain was honestly numb. I had to leave. And so I want to emphasize that it isn't so much what you're saying, but the delivery and how you're saying it. And now more than ever, and I'll tell you why, because content is freely available everywhere. It's on the internet. I mean, you don't need me. Everything I have to say, you can go Google it right now and you'll get it, which means that the delivery is the difference. I'm more interesting than reading the internet, hopefully. So while words have power, and they certainly do, it's our voice and our body language. It's actually 93%. We've heard that for years. 7% is our words. But when we're doing something like this, you're not getting my full body language. So that makes the delivery and your voice even more important. Now, I'm very auditory. And I have written to, I'm not even going to say, but one of the weather women in my area drives me nuts. She has this kind of twangy voice when she sings the weather. And I have written to her and I said, look, I'm a certified speaking professional, TEDx speaker, got all of that out. I know what I'm talking about. I think we can have a chat. I want to help you. Don't hear from her. She's making more money than I do. Why would she call me? But I actually can't listen to her. So we really have to look at the power of voice. And so in doing some of the foundational stuff of influence, that is number one. Now, I got to tell you, over the years, I have seen so many different tools and techniques for selling. I mean, there's, how many of you have heard of spin sell? How many of you have heard of relationship selling? Oh, by the way, that's back again. And then we had NLP. And then how many of you are old enough? John, I know you're probably old enough. Do you remember when we had Theories X, Theories Y, Theories Z, and then we had Deming? Jim, Danny, you might remember some of this stuff. Yeah. And John, do you remember that? They come and go. I want to tell you something right now. I was listening to a seminar and it was on relationship selling. And I thought, oh, that's back. It's kind of like if you keep your bell-bottom pants long enough, by golly, they'll come back and they'll be in style. So we have these sales flavors of the month. It's like Baskin Robbins. Now, I don't care if we're talking about different methods in selling or whether we're talking, about leadership and Deming and things like that. It doesn't matter. The reason things come and go is because they will work. They may work. They can work for a while. But you know why they go out of fashion? And then another kind of sales method comes in? You know why? Because we're missing half of the population. We're missing. So relationship selling may work well with right brain people, but it may leave out the left brainers. So what I want to get across today more than anything else is a conceptual design that I offer you to understand that is very holistic. I'm also certified in Herman brain dominance, the right brain, left brain people. And I'm going to tell you that companies throughout the world, they've been throughout the world, companies throughout the world that are most successful have an equal balance of upper right brain, lower right brain, upper left brain, and lower left brain. So the bottom line is we need each other. But when you're speaking, I don't care if it's a keynoter or when you're speaking because you're a group of 10 in a sales meeting, a leadership meeting, or if it's a sales process. It doesn't matter. You've got to be flexible and know your client, because if you're the flavor of the month, and it's kind of like Abraham Maslow said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you treat everything as if it's a nail. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's pretty dang dumb. It's just plain dumb. So the bottom line is one size does not fit all. So I'm just taking a more holistic approach. Look, I've been training for over 55 years. When you're old, you get a long resume. And most of you on the call can't brag about that. So the approach should focus on the words you choose, your method of delivery, your engagement, and your presence. Speaking of presence, I want to share something with you because I found this very fascinating. And it's about first impressions. And I know one of these people very, very well, but I'm not going to give any names. I'm changing the names in case he watches it. But I showed a picture to, we'll call him Carl. I showed him a picture of a woman who's very successful. I don't know her personally. I've been on her webinars and free stuff and some of her paid stuff for probably 5 years, 6 years. I know that she makes multi-million dollars. She does well. And I showed Carl, we'll call her Karen. Everybody loves that. I showed Carl Karen's picture. And I said, she charges, I don't want to be too specific, but it's over $30,000 to join her tribe and join her webinar. That's a fair amount of money. And Carl said, I wouldn't give her $1. And he based that. We brought her up on the web. He looked at her picture and said, I can't believe anybody would give her $10. And yet the next day I had a call with somebody very smart, lots of degrees, that gave her over $30,000. So that made me realize, when we're talking about a picture is worth 1,000 words, that kind of blew my mind, because they're both people that are making millions, doing well. So you would think they would relate to each other, but it didn't meet Carl's expectation of a professional, because in your mind, you have an expectation of exactly what authority looks like. I'm going to just say one other thing. I have a grandson that just graduated. He's in Florida, and in accounting, and everybody said, oh, he'll get a job. Well, right now, do you know that they're putting more value on philosophy and art majors than they are on STEM courses and things like accounting? So things have changed. But I told him, dress like you're the CEO of the company. Don't dress like you're going in for a job. You always have to step it up one and make a difference. So the key that I'm talking about is know your audience. Now, I want to share something else. When we talk about knowing your audience, we often talk about demographics, right? Have you all heard of demographics? Knowing, yeah. Well, you know what? Let me give you an example. How many of you have heard of Ozzy Osbourne? Do you remember when he bit the head off the bat? I think it was 1982. It was January 20th on my parents' birthday. Ozzy bites a bat head, the head of a bat, bites it off on stage. Okay, what would you call him? He's hard acid rock kind of singer? Would you say? Yeah, I would say so. Now, how many of you have heard of Prince Charles? Okay, do you see the two of them as being hanging out in the bar together? I don't think so. But they have the same demographics. They both are, from the UK. They're same age group, same everything in terms of demographics. Check, check, check. And they're about as opposite as you can get. So I want to take us deeper into the psychographics, because that's what really is going to start making the difference. So when you have your client or potential client, rule number one is mirror and match them. Be like them. So Carl didn't like Karen because Carl happens to be in the finance industry, very high up, and just, different kind of expectation. And so we have to mirror and match. Now, it's tough when you have a picture on the internet. How do you do? One size has got to fit all, but it doesn't. So you've got to mirror and match them. In fact, there are even called mirror neurons that help people feel connected to you because they feel like you feel. I remember when I lived in New York City, everybody was named Schwartz. And I was ready to just tell people my middle name was Schwartz because they liked me more. I mean, if I ask you a question and I say, how many children do you have? And you say 2, and I've got 2, there's already a little bit of connection. Oh, you lived in New York City? So did I. Oh, now we love each other. But what if you say, I'm from rural Iowa? You know what I'll tell them? I'm from rural Wisconsin, right over the border. And we already have a connection. So you've got to always look for the common bond, for the commonality that the two of you might have. And my little story, I think, I think it says it well. So looks can be deceiving. Now, let's see I want to talk a little bit about words. They have the power to help and to harm. Now, I wrote a book on bullying, and I got to tell you, a lot of kids have committed suicide. Do you know how many? More than you want to talk about. And the bottom line is, it's because of social media. It's because of the words that other kids are posting. That's how powerful a word is, which has turned our simple phones into weapons. But words can also heal. I live in North Carolina. Billy Graham used to live right up the road from me. And I remember as a kid when Billy Graham would say, heal. Do you remember that? Heal. And people in crutches would throw them off the stage and walk back to their seats. That was the power of words. Now we have to remember, behind words is the energy. I remember when I was talking to Jack Canfield, probably right after my first book, Why Cats Don't Bark. And I remember him telling me a little story about they were doing an exercise with applied kinesiology, which I do in one of my talks. And, if your energy is high and strong, your arm is strong. But with my mind, I even took down a Panther player's arm. I'm an 81-year-old woman, and I took down the arm of a Panther player. with my mind. So we have to know that it's the energy behind the words that make a difference. So Jack Canfield, if you don't remember who he is, he's co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, which I think next to the Holy Bible has sold the most books. But anyway, he was saying they would have people write on a sheet of paper, you know, I love chicken soup for the soul. But before they wrote that, they had to think of one of the most stressful, angry moments in their life. And they wrote, I love chicken soup for the soul. But they were angry in their heart. And then they would have somebody, one of the most joyous moments. It could have been marriage, it could have been divorce, but it was a joyous moment. And they wrote down, I love chicken soup for the soul. And then they did the arm test. And when the positive energy was behind it, the arm was strong. But when there was anger in the heart, even though the words were positive, the arm went down. So it's always, you know, when I'm talking about Billy Graham, it's a little bit more than the word. It's the energy behind it. So I want to make another statement here, and that's about understanding and directing influence. Influence. Okay, there's one thing that tops influence. I wrote a book, Forget Selling, and it's about influence and persuasion. We've got to put negotiation in there. But there's one more element. Can anybody say, feel free to unmute at any time, what trumps influence? John, I would guess you might guess. Well, I got two Johns here that I can. Yeah, one of you would guess it. What would you say?
Authenticity, perhaps.
That would be a good one.
Relationship, somewhere along those lines.
Okay. Piazza, you want to give it a stab?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. Sorry.
That's okay. Anybody else? I don't mean to be limiting it. I just know these two guys. You know what it is? It's charisma. It's real. You know why? I just want to say a little bit about it.
Right.
Charisma trumps influence because it's an essence. It's a presence. How many people, you know, there's some people that walk in the room and the lights dim, and there's other people that walk in the room and it's almost like a bolt of lightning, right? It's that presence where people will follow you. You don't even have to open your mouth. I mean, look at Moses. I mean, he obviously was pretty charismatic because people followed him. What was it for 40? I went to a Christian day school. Was it 40 years? 40 months? How many was it? 40?
Years.
40 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. Yeah, that's charisma. So that kind of takes in the laws of attraction. But for practical purposes now, I want to talk a little bit about influence. So influence is the trigger behind all motivation, all action, all change. It's essential in sales, leadership, parenting, and all interactions. And, you know, well, John is on my board of directors. Hey, Piazza, you got to get on my board too. I have a nonprofit, wingsforwishesacademy.org, and it's to wire kids for health, happiness, and success. It's wiping out poverty of the mind. And so it's a lot about parenting. Where have all the parents gone? I mean, I just don't get it. Who's in control? I just see such a lack of influence. We'll just start because most of the people on the call are a parent, and it's in parenting. So what influence is all about is becoming the director of energy, because where attention goes, energy flows. Influence can even help you. Well, you know what? It can even help you get out of a speeding ticket. Let me just share a quick story with you. I used to live in the Cary area, North Carolina, Holly Springs, Raleigh.
Yeah.
And, are some of you familiar with it? Okay.
Yeah, my brother lived there, yeah. Right.
Really? Yeah. It's, you know what? There's no crime there. Basically no crime. So
Right.
if you want to be a cop, you're pretty safe being one in Cary. And they don't have anything better to do than track down little old ladies like me. But I got to tell you, this is about 20 years ago. And I'm driving on Kildare Farm Road. It's the main drag, and it's boring. And right-brain people, when they get more bored, it's very painful. So we go into daydreaming. So I'm going down Kildare Farm Road. I didn't even finish my one glass of wine. I do not have any problems drinking. But I got into my head, so apparently I looked like I was maybe a drunken driver. So I all of the blue lights going, and I pull into a Kmart parking lot. That's when Kmart was still around. How many of you remember the old blue light specials there? I honestly was thinking they were having blue light specials in the parking lot, only to realize there were 5 police cars after me. And it's pouring rain, and those officers are lined up. There were women, men, big, short, tall, fat. It was all sizes, everything, because they have nothing better to do than to pick on me. And they're lined up. Now, this is the truth. It is pouring rain, and I'm saying, what did I do? And they said, well, you were kind of swerving and stuff. And I said, oh, I got to tell you, I'm a right-brain person. This is why we do this. I start giving them a lecture on right-brain people. Well, they're getting drenched in this soaking waterfall outside, and they're so engaged. And then they said, by the way, your sticker is also a couple years old. And it's like, oh, it's in my glove compartment. That's another thing typical of right brainers. We're just not good about keeping up to date with the stickers on our license plate. So they're buying into this. I am engaging them. And I'm telling you, it is pouring. And then I said, you know, my book, My Cats Don't Bark, is on intuition. And it would explain a lot of this. And then I said, here. So I started handing out copies of my books. You believe this? I had them. They totally forgot why they had stopped me. And they are so engaged and entrenched in everything I'm saying. And they're taking the books, and they don't want the books to get wet. So they go back to the car. And obviously, I didn't get a ticket. I don't pay that much for the books. But here's the clinch. Listen to this. 2 weeks later, guess what happened in the mail? You want to guess, John?
You got something from them? You got your ticket? No.
John, oh ye of little faith, I got a check for all the books, including the tax, and they never charge people tax when I sell this.
Wow.
Can you believe this? I got a check for all 5 books. Never.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so why am I telling this story? There's a moral. And that is once you engage people,
Yeah.
and you
Right.
you know, I was directing their energy. I totally distracted them from why they stopped me in the first place. And they love me. And they sent me gifts.
Yeah.
Money. I want you to be aware that, especially I have a program on how to deal with difficult people. That comes in handy so, you know, with stuff like that. Because once you align with people, once you connect with them, once you speak their language, they will follow you anywhere. And that's one example. I could give you hundreds because I'm always getting in trouble, but I know how to get out of it. So the number one challenge is to direct their energy. And in this day and age, this was before everybody was scrolling. Right now, if you're in business, what do you have to do? You have to stop the scroll to get their energy. How often do you see somebody scrolling on the phone, even on a date? I was speaking in, what's the other part of Haiti? I liked it. Dominican Republic. 5-star resort. And this couple, it was sad. She was staring into space, and under the table, he was scrolling.
Yeah.
And you paid this much money, and you talk about addiction, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is stop the scroll. So I want to talk a little bit about neuroshifts, and I just kind of coined the term, but I see there's a place in Florida that works with autism that uses the term, so we'll share it. But before you even open your mouth, you really have to look at your own mindset mastery. You really have to kind of prime your own brain. And there's just a little quiz I often give people. Do you want to know if you have a growth or a safety mindset? I could say stagnant mindset, but safety sounds better. So what I want you to do is take your right hand and take your right index finger. John, I'm watching you. Kennedy? Okay, I want you to make a Q on your forehead. Make a Q. And then notice which way you made the little slash. How many of you went to the right? Did you go? If you went to the right, you have a growth mindset. If you went to the left, you need to talk. You need to talk to me soon.
That's a pretty litmus test. Usually
You like that? Yeah, it's a,
but
yeah, you can share it. You can share it, honey. So the first step to presenting and speaking like a pro includes selling is to prime your own brain. And if you have a fear of speaking or selling, ask yourself, how badly do you want to do this? And what price am I willing to pay to give up what I hate doing? Think about that. If you want to do what you want to do, all you have to sacrifice is simple. It's giving up what you don't like doing. But you know why you keep holding on to it? Because the reptilian brain likes sameness, and it's because what you've always done. It's any bad habit, whether it's drinking, smoking, whatever. If it's self-sabotage in your own subconscious, is because that's what you're used to. You have to give it up. But it's not, the question I always tell people that they should ask, does this serve me well? And if what you're doing does not serve you well, time to release it and let go, because you're paying a price you don't want to be paying. It's how badly you want it. I know there's an old story of the Zen master, and he asks the student, there's a fox chasing a hare. And he asked the student, who will win that race? And the student said, well, the fox. It's bigger. It's faster. And the Zen master said, no, the fox is just going after his next meal. The hare is running for his life. So the bottom line is, if you want change to happen, the question you got to ask is, how badly do you want it? Now, so here we go to another point. And, oh, God, I got to speed it up. So expectations plant seeds for your results. So when people, you see, let me tell you something about goal setting. It's such a joke. No, it isn't. It's the seeds of the reality that we create. It's only the seed, though. See, people talk so much about goal setting. Goal setting is good, but it is not enough. If goal setting alone worked, and John, you would agree with this, if goal setting alone worked, why would people have the same goals, the same New Year's resolutions, year after year after year? And you have seen it, right?
Yep.
We have the same. Oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. Oh, I want to quit smoking. Oh, I want to drink, right? So if goal setting alone worked, it's not enough. Good. It's the first step, but we must go beyond that. Oh, wait a minute, Christine Grant, and I got to admit her. So we've got to take the next step besides goal setting, because it's simply not enough. And that is visualization. And of course, that is, I think some of you know my story. I went from a mansion to totally homeless. I trusted people that took me down a wrong path. And I don't know what I lost, but it was 4 to 5 million. I know it was every penny I had. And I think I had $250,000 in debt. But I'm looking at one of the best views on a lake here, Lake Norman. And so one of my talks, Unstoppable, if you can't walk, dance, is about how I bounced back. And it was, I don't know if I should say simply, but it was just mind mastery. And it was basically visualization and never saying die. So when we visualize, and John also is a brain trainer, if you can't achieve a dream, you can't achieve a dream that you haven't first dreamed. I mean, Michelangelo said, how can the dream come true if you haven't first dreamed the dream? And that's where visualization comes in, because it creates new neural pathways. So if you visualize your success, you're already engaging the subconscious. And know this, that the subconscious, this is almost unbelievable, is 60,000 times faster than a text. 60,000. That's a lot. It's 1,000,000 times more powerful. And yet I see so many people digging a ditch with a shovel when they have a backhoe in their backyard. Is this stupidity or what? Because what I really am here about is accelerate your success. You already have the tools. You have the backhoe, but you're using the shovel. So that is where I want you to make the shift. This is why ads have pictures. Some ads have nothing. Nike just has their logo and then the little word Nike. So the reason that language and text is so much slower, a lot slower, is that when language basically it's just linear. So it doesn't engage the subconscious mind, which is the powerhouse of our being. It's linear. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, where a picture is holistic. And that is why, and this is MIT research. This is just my opinion. Scientists have found that images are processed in just 13 milliseconds. So let's engage visualization to accelerate your success and engage the subconscious and move forward with boldness. So my question to you is, what is your new story? Because you need to write down. I have a client and I said, write down what's your new story and let it override and delete the old stories that are sabotaging your success. And I'm going to just give you a few practical things to kind of play with. A lot of you are familiar and certified in neurolinguistic programming. So I want to share a little bit of triggers for those of you who may not be. But triggers are basically physical acts. Like every time I take a sip of I don't know what I'm drinking. It's not as exciting as you think. Every time I take a sip of that, if I associate that physical concrete act with a desired emotional state, I can start making change. Every time I take a sip of this, I can associate it with a state of calm. Let's say you're somebody that doesn't like professional speaking or even speaking in front of a group of 10 people, and you take a sip. Have your water handy. And you feel it just creating a state of calm. Or maybe it's creating a state of confidence. You get to choose whatever you want. So what I say is what you have to do is look at what you want to delete, release, and replete. Now, the other thing is if you have negative thoughts and fears and anxieties, what you want to do is, sometimes I tell people to put a rubber band on their wrist and snap it. I don't want them to hurt themselves, but it's just a reminder. I remember that the I do a lot of hypnosis for smoking and so forth. The Heart Association used to have something where you would wrap your pack of cigarettes with 20 million pieces of paper and 30 rubber bands. Why did they do that? Because by the time you got done unwrapping it, you would shift to the habit part of our brain, the reptilian brain, to the neocortex, the analytical, critical thinking part of our brain, and say, you know what? I don't want this cigarette. And so it's a matter of shifting and slowing things down so that impulses and old habits and behaviors don't override you, but you go from the reptilian brain and then you go up to the emotional brain and then you go up to the neocortex and make a good executive decision. So things like the rubber band can be good. And I tell people, if you want to release something, imagine it like a cloud and just leaving you. Or I sometimes have them have a delete button in the middle of their forehead, and they learn that every time they press it, ants are basically automatic negative thoughts. And every time you press it, and it's very effective. And the other, of course, is just taking 3 deep breaths and associating with those 3 deep breaths the desired emotional state. So whether it's pinching yourself. Now, as a speaker, you know what one of my props are? That in the minute I often do a handheld mic, and the reason for that is that the moment I put the mic in my hand, it's showtime. It's showtime. You know what? Can I just tell you a quick story on that? Oh gosh, I have so much to cover. I just have to tell you. I was doing a showcase about 30 years ago in Wisconsin, and it was not one I had rehearsed well, and I just wasn't prepared. And so I thought, okay, shift your mindset. And so I said in my mind, the minute I take that stage, I will be clear, I will be confident, I will be impactful. Whatever the words were, I can't remember. Somebody in the front row said, you were, and it was the exact 3 adjectives that I had programmed in my mind. So, and just stepping on the stage, closing the door, whatever it is, let that be a trigger for your greatness. And some of us are more auditory, just saying the word, yes. Tony Robbins used to use that all the time. Yes. And you feel so empowered. But the fact is, the subconscious mind is actually very, very obedient. And if you say stop or no, it obeys. It looks like training a dog. It'll do what you tell it to do, but you got to talk to it. So visualize, imagine the ideal. And when you're speaking, it's just talking to one person. Get out of your own ego. Be so focused on the message of what you're sharing that you're not self-conscious about what they might be thinking. If you just get into alignment, body, mind, and spirit, getting into the flow, which is that state of perfect balance and performance between anxiety and boredom. And then imitate the ideal. Think of somebody you know and, start being one with them. And then, of course, there's rituals. Like before I go on, I remember when I had 10-inch heels, I would do jumping jacks outside the convention. And I know it sounds ridiculous. If you had a brain, you would take off the heels. Okay, so you release the negativity, you focus, and remember, an obstacle is something that you see only when you take your eyes off the goal. What is your goal? And there's no anxiety when you're that focused on the goal. So you all probably know about the flow state, in the zone. It's that balanced energy where we are absolutely optimized in our peak performance. Now, I want to share a couple other tools to engage and increase effectiveness. What is one of the best ways to engage people? Very simple. I started the program with it. So I already told you.
Greeting them.
What was it?
Greeting them, make that first connection.
Yeah. It's asking questions that aren't debatable. So you're creating a connection, like John said, and you're creating an alignment. Now, on my last TEDx talk, I goofed up. I kind of shamed the audience. I know better than that, but I think I get so passionate about some points that I forget to override it. But yeah, use startling facts like, really, 60,000 times more, to grab their attention, to create alignment, agreement, and connection. Because remember, people like us because the subconscious mind likes the familiar. Why do you think we have at least 143 subconscious biases? Why do we not like people of a different color or creed until we get to know them and until they become familiar? And then all of a sudden, not sudden, but gradually, we tend to like them, no matter what color or creed, no matter where they wear their pants, no matter if it's a hoodie. We don't, you know what I mean? If we get to know them. But when it's unfamiliar, there's rejection every time. So, and you know what? Ask soul-stirring questions. My favorite is, what would you be doing if you knew you couldn't fail? Just stop for a moment. Just stop. What would you be doing if you knew you couldn't fail? Doesn't that reveal a lot? If you want to know where your goals are, that's a good clue and a good indicator. Now, I want to also talk a little bit about what I call the pregnant pause. So many times, have you seen somebody that doesn't know how to tell a joke? They tell a joke. They never give the audience time to laugh. They go on to the next one. You've got to pause to let the amygdala process what happened. If you ever see a good comedian, what do? They tell the joke, and there's a split second before it hits people's brains. And then there's the thunderous laughter. But if they kept talking because they're nervous, you've lost it. If you're making an important point, you want to have people lean into it. And that's where silence matters. Shut up. Make your point. It creates suspense. If I say something like, what I'm about to share can change everything if you let it. And then stop. And people they're leaning in. So what you have to do, obviously, is vary the tempo, vary, the inclining inflection and so forth. But here, I'm going to hit something that really got me on this topic. I was on Manny Lopez's call. I think, Chris, I've got a couple people on there that's with Manny's group. And then one day I ditched my pitch and I just said to everybody, you are so boring. I love you. I think you have a great message. I think you can heal people. I think you can help people. but they were all so boring. Now, it was a class where there was only one man, and it was all women. I thought nobody would talk to me again, but I'm kind of like Andy Rooney. Once you hit 80, you don't give a rip. You're just about truth and honesty. You really are. And I think, John, do you understand that as you get older, you just kind of feel that way too? I'm not in a popularity contest. I want to make a difference. Who's laughing there that I can't even see?
Christine?
Who is it?
Is it me?
Oh, I don't know, but I love laughter. It's okay. So anyway, I went into a small group after that, and they loved me. They just loved the honesty, the upfrontness. They thought I spoke from the heart. And that's when I decided to actually change from doing the program on neuromarketing, neuroselling, which I still do, to focusing on this. And you know what was driving me nuts? Every single woman there, except for you, Miss Grant, was using, yeah. Do you know what I'm going to say? Do you remember what it was about? It was about inclining inflection. It drives me nuts. And women, you go on networking calls and they end every sentence with the inclining inflection. Whoa. And if it were good, I think, and oh, wow. And I'm so good. And I'm such an authority. It's fluff. It takes away your power. You will never see a news anchor talk that way. They end their sentence. They don't go declining. You can decline a bit, but if you go too much, it's depressing. If every sentence goes down, and then people often soften their voice. Have you ever heard speakers that at the end of every sentence, you miss it. You miss it. Don't do that. And so I can't say that enough, especially if you're a woman. And if you watch The Bachelor with all of these young chicks, does it drive you nuts? They have all these little phrase words like, don't you think? Or they'll say things like, or these younger kids, what are a couple other ones that they do? It's like every other word is, yeah, don't. It's taking away your power. So vary your tempo, your volume, and then at times whisper. Just whisper. Scan the room, move, don't hide, align yourself. Have you ever seen a speaker where they're yelling and screaming, but their body language looks like they're, ready to clam up in a turtle shell? There has to be that alignment, and then it'll happen, normally. Now, there's another thing I want to say. I'm a big believer in role play. I studied with J.L. Marino, the father of psychodrama, who argued with Sigmund Freud. That's how old I am. My mentor argued with Sigmund Freud. And obviously, he didn't like Sigmund, and I think Sigmund offered a couple of things, but for most of it, no. So people, listen to this. And if you have kids, I want you to hear this. People who role play or were in drama are more successful in life. It's called the Raether effect. Go watch is it in the first? It's in the first TEDx talk of mine, Brain Fitness for Kids. Learn about the Raether effect, where they go in and they have people, whether it's speaking or playing an instrument or being artists, and they pretend they're Mozart or Van Gogh, and they put them in that altered state, and they come out with unbelievable performances. And so, just rehearse it. And Reagan is a perfect example. He wasn't a politician until he was a politician. What was he? He was an actor. He did roles. And look how sick. The guy had what a guy. I mean, I don't care if you agree with him politically or not. That's not the point. But you got to admit, he did a lot of things and he rose to the top. It's all because if the only note on the piano you know how to play is middle C, you will never make beautiful noise. And so the more roles you can play, the more successful you're going to be. And, the other thing is, if you're a parent, children who are asked more often, what do you want to be when you grow up? Children who are asked more questions are more successful. Yep. So engage and interact and always make it about them. You know what? I've been speaking for 55 years. I still have to remind myself of that. You always have to invite the audience in. It is not about you. And it's so, we all talk about storytelling, and I'm going to get into that in a moment. We have to make them the hero. You are simply the facilitator and guide in your own story. And that is one area I still have things to learn. I'm never too old to learn. So and make it about them. And then, like John said earlier, ask questions for agreement, getting them nodding and saying yes, because that's going to create the alignment. And just remember that the very best message you have has absolutely no value until someone buys it. So if you don't want to die with the music in you and you want to sing your song, you've got to sell to be able to serve. So let's talk a little bit about selling. And I'm only halfway through. I think we're going to have to do a part 2. So I think some people have an issue with, sales, selling. Change it to serving. What do you have to offer, Christine? What do you have to offer, John, Stacy, Oscar? What do you have to offer that'll make a difference? Doesn't it make it easy to then sell it? Because you are giving. And people like you and me and a lot of people on the call, we're more about making a difference, I think more. And with making a difference, it will put money in your bank account. But I don't think our number one goal for a lot of people on the call are really bank account. We all need to pay our bills. But I think there's a commitment to making a difference. And to buy, it's true. People love to buy, but they hate to be sold. So think of rejection as a GPS. Think of rejection as a GPS. It is just rerouting you. So pitch to the buying brain. We're always selling as parents, getting out of a ticket. We sell values, interviews. We're always selling ourselves, even to cops. So see yourself as a handyman with a bag of tools ready to use different ones for different people, different audiences at different times. And if you're committed, I'm going to tell you, if you're committed to just one tool, you're serving yourself. You're not serving others. And again, Abraham Maslow, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you treat everybody as if they're a nail. So, number 1, speak their language. And number 1 is understanding the brain. We all know this. There's nobody on the call that hasn't heard this. That, that we buy by emotion and we justify it with logic. Okay, that is true. So I want to go a little bit deeper into that. So it's knowing how people process information. So what I said before, remember we have theory, X, Y, Z, Deming. And the reason they come and go is you have to look at the brain of who you're selling to. If they're a left brainer, they are going to like. So does everybody more so buy by emotions? Yes. Will a left brain still have a tilt? Do they want more facts and figures? Oh, yes. They love their spreadsheets. They eat them for breakfast. They do. And if you don't provide them in their language, you will lose them. It goes back to Carl and Karen. She didn't look. And I know Carl very well. He's a relative, a very close relative. And he's very balanced, right brain and left brain. But it didn't sing his song. So just know that, right brainers, left brainers see right brainers as being kind of fluffy and flowing, and right brainers kind of love the stories and love the emotion. They love to cry. They love to buy. And they see left brainers as stiff and boring. But remember, the best companies in the world have a balance of all. So you guys probably know this. Subconscious decisions, 95% of decisions are made by the subconscious. Now, here's what's really interesting, and I believe this was MIT as well. Have you noticed there aren't as many focus groups and surveys as there were 20, 30 years ago? How many of you? I don't see them anymore. Do you remember? Are you guys old enough to remember when focus groups were in? Why don't we see them anymore? And it's because, listen to this. This is new research. Before you even decide emotionally, a split second or whatever before, a few seconds before, you have already made listen to this. This blows my mind. You have already made the decision before you even knew there was a decision to be made. very recent research. That blows my mind. So hopefully I'm telling you something you didn't know. So just remember, people don't buy products or pitches. They buy emotions, identity, transformation, and future. I mean, back when I was growing up, it was the Izod shirts. I mean, I cannot believe I've got a granddaughter in college, and I don't know whose money she uses. I hope it's her own. $500 for a pair of tennis shoes? Really? Really? Because of the brand. And it's because, and I always say that if people lack identity, they crave image. And that's how the big brands get you to pay thousands of dollars for a purse. And I'm a thrift store shopper, so don't talk to me about it. So as we were talking before, and John said too, align and connect. Once you connect, people will follow you anywhere. You have to first speak their language. I do an exercise in dealing with difficult people where I tell somebody to just push against me. And then, so we struggle. This is what happens with dealing with difficult people. But then I let them have the control. They push my way because I allow it. But then I turn them and spin them around. They follow me for the next 5 minutes. Why? Because when you go their way, they will go yours. And that exercise has never failed. So are they auditory, visual, or kinesthetic? I'm going to move quite fast because we have a little bit of time left. I can find the common ground, be one of them. And I talked about the biases. Let's just keep moving. I talked a little bit about the triune brain. We can do more of that another time. But, I want to say something, and I brought this up in my last TED talk on is AI and digital dopamine making us dumb. It's more screen time, but we do have a dopamine epidemic. And our brains are literally being rewired. So our buyers are different than they were. And it's scary to me. They're not only being rewired, we're doing brain damage. That's a pretty powerful statement, but there's science to back it up. I think in my TED talk, I do mention they took a picture of the brain scan of somebody that just took a hit of cocaine, and they compared it to a child that had too much screen time. And you know what? It was similar. Yeah. Is that scary or not? I get goosebumps. It's dang scary. So brains are being rewired with social media, and actually we are losing our critical thinking skills, which is why we hear on the news that somebody gets mad because they didn't put the right pepperoni on the pizza, and they end up dead because the neocortex, there is a short circuit. If you're an electrician, there's a circuit. We are short circuiting our brain, and it's not incorporating the higher level of decision making in the neocortex. Okay, very quickly, we all know that storytelling is the ultimate selling tool. Oh, we know that people who cry are people who buy, and that in a state of laughter, we feel bonded, we're laughing together, and people are more apt to buy as well. So, you've seen me put in a little bit of humor, stories that might make it a little more emotional, losing everything, coming back. So we need that. But there's a couple things in your story I want you to remember when you're doing a sales for some impact. One is the struggle. Start with the challenge, and it should be their challenge. Then number 2 is the search. Describe the journey toward a solution. I didn't have time to tell you the solution, but the house is worth a lot, and I bought it on credit cards. We've got to bring back creative thinking. And AI, as much as I use it and love it as a tool, it is destroying our creative thinking. And that is how I got out of this. The house is, I don't know, 2 to 3 million. I didn't have a dime. I bought it on credit cards, and that allowed me to finish it. And I got the loan before the interest was due. That's what we want. I heard the head of SHRM the other day, and he said, we need 3 things today. People who think there's a shortage, people who are creative, and people who are coachable. And it's hard to find that these days. I think a lot of managers and leaders would agree. So let them be the hero. Position yourself as the guide. The audience wants to see themselves winning. And if you're doing an elevator pitch, these three things I want to remind you of. Have a compelling question, short story, analogy. It could be just 20 seconds, and the bold outcome. Now, I want to show something, and this could be a little bit pop.
Edie,
Yep.
Edie, real quick. So I'll listen as long as I can. I have to hop off in like a minute to another meeting, but I will give you a call later today.
Yeah,
Well,
you know what? What time is it?
it's
You
almost
know
10
what?
o'clock Pacific.
I'm gonna cut it here, and you know what? We'll do another call because I want to show you the master stream method. This guy is so blessed brilliant that it makes everything I've ever seen on selling tools today a joke. They are archaic, and it has a stream of how you ask questions to raise their awareness so that they sell themselves. And it makes your job easy because you don't have to sell. But to do it justice, I'm going to do another program just on that. John will talk later. And I want
Thank
to,
you.
yep. And so all I can say is if you're interested in implementing these tactics with brain training, neuroplasticity to accelerate your success and achieve real results, I do have a master class, and it's going to take you on to a deeper dive in the neurochemistry of success so that you can walk your talk and plump up your bank account. But here is the clicker. I just thought of it this week. I'm going to give you something, and I just want to have a talk with you. I think James Feldman is one of the brightest people on not just AI, but the application of AI to business. I am bringing him in, and I'm going to tell you his class is 2,500. I am including that, and yeah, mine is about the same. So you're getting it's unbelievable. I just thought of this. I'm going to pay the tuition to his, so you'll get acceleration of success with the brain training and the neural shifts, but you will also get AI, not just learning about AI, but its application, the real world application to business, and make it your partner. So what I'd like you to do, and is there a click below? Oh, shoot. Anam, can you put it in the chat? I would love to have a chat with all of you and how I can help make a difference, create value, and help you get paid what you deserve. And so if you can put in the chat my calendar, I would love to talk to each of you that might have an interest. And this is for entrepreneurs, but we can offer this to the corporate world too. If some of you are in that world, I think you certainly are probably in it. So that's all of you. Thank you for your most precious gift, your time. We'll do the master stream method another time, so I'll make sure all of you get the news on that. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.